Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. And once again, we are so privileged to have a very unique and special guest on our show. She's been here before. This is part 2 of the show with Denise Brown, and she's out of Philadelphia, and we're going to learn more about Denise again because she has such a plethora of information to bring to us, so much to share, and I'm very excited about having Denise Brown back on our show. So welcome, Denise, to the National Federation of the Blind, Indiana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back again. It's my pleasure.
And Denise, you are from, as Lee just said, from the city of brotherly love. And Philadelphia is a place I visited before. I would love to visit again. And it is a pleasure having you again on our show, as Lee just said. Let's talk a little bit about NFB Newsline, the free audio information service for the blind and visually impaired community. So, Denise, I know that you are familiar with this free audio service.
Very familiar with Newsline. I can say in the early stages of Newsline, I was part of the contingent here in Pennsylvania who went to Harrisburg, our capital, to try to make sure that our state would have funding for Newsline so that we could make it free to all individuals who need it. You know, one of the things that I used to do every day was read the newspaper, you know, whether it was delivered to the home or whether I would grab a copy on my way to college. I always picked up a newspaper. And as you know, having retinitis pigmentosa in the beginning stages, that central vision, that reading vision was there for quite a while. But after a while, when things started dimming a little bit, then I couldn't read the newspaper anymore. So,
you know, Denise, to go along with that, coincide with what you're saying. I know when I lost my sight, it was like boom, sight was gone, you know, and didn't have access to print anymore. And that's so very devastating to us citizens that are dealing with blindness, living with it on a daily basis, and not having that access, you know, to the print. And this service provides just that, you know, to a lot of people that we speak with when we speak sometimes with our legislators and people of great interest to our funding streams for our services. It becomes like, okay, what do you mean you can't read print? I once had a heckler at our Indiana General Assembly as I was speaking about this free service. And all he could state, a legislator now, why do we have to spend money on people to read the newspapers? He just wasn't getting it, you know, but to most sighted people, this seemed frivolous, you know, but to us, it means the world, you know, to be able to pick up a magazine and pick up a newspaper. You know, once again, I always state that informed citizens make informed decisions. And this is what it allows us to do.
Yes, that's true. I mean, I know we have the news on television, basically 24/7, but it's nothing like going deep into an article to find out all the information that you need to know, or to read different articles on the same story. And Newsline is like having your own personal assistant where you can choose your publication. You can choose the sections of the publication that you want. You don't have to read every article in that particular section if it's nothing that you're interested in. That's why I say it's like having a personal assistant. You are able to read just what you want to know for that day.
That's it. You've got a choice right there at your fingertips.
Mhm.
Yeah, and even further than that, I mean, we got over 2,000 job listings in there. We have information about TV guide listings, Walmart and Target circulars. I mean, it is so much more than just reading newspapers. We have those international publications, national publications. It is so much on there, and you can access it through a myriad of devices, such as your landline phone, your A-Lady, which is Amazon Alexa, and also your computer, the Victor Stream Reader. And like I said, a lot of people go to the landline, but one of the greatest devices that we have is that app that you can go to. And inside that app is a device in there that is very helpful and handy, and that's the basic CAN-FB reader that reads documents to us just at a flash. It reads your information to you. So check out our information about NFB Newsline as it scrolls across the screen and through our commercials, and contact us so that we can get you started on this great service from the National Federation of the Blind. So now we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come right back with our guest, Ms. Denise Brown, all the way from the city of Brotherly Love.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. And we're going to continue our conversation with our guest, Denise Brown. So go ahead, Florence.
Yes, sir. And Denise, welcome back to the show. And
Thank you.
Now, on our last show, we talked a little bit about, we had a conversation about a lot of topics. So let's just backtrack, if we will, just to retinitis pigmentosa, the condition itself, and to where you are now in the Federation. So let's start there.
Okay, so just to recap a little bit, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As a young child, at about age 2, my grandmother noticed that I would bump into things when I was in a room with dim light. And that is how I started going to Wills Eye Hospital here in Philadelphia and getting the diagnosis of retinitis pigmentosa. And of course, retinitis pigmentosa is a degeneration of the retina. One of the first symptoms is night blindness. So I never had the ability to see at night or see well in dim light. I was able, however, to go to public school, graduate from public school, still able to read my books with my own eyes, only having to possibly sit a little closer to the board in order to copy down information. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree from Temple University here in Philadelphia. Once I got my bachelor's degree, I was able to get a teaching job. I always wanted to be an elementary school teacher, and taught school for a total of 22 years. But toward school. The last 12 years, I was legally blind, and because of the accommodations that I was given by the School District of Philadelphia, I was able to continue my job successfully until I decided to retire. As we talked about the National Federation of the Blind, I met the National Federation of the Blind sort of maybe toward the end of the year 2000, as I was looking for technology, and I learned about a man named Ted Young, who had a technology company here in Philadelphia called Young Opportunities. And Mr. Young was also the state president of the NFB of Pennsylvania. And through some questions with him, that's how I found out about the National Federation of the Blind. And I became a member of the 2 chapters here in Philadelphia, and then decided to spend my time as a contributing elected member with the Greater Philadelphia chapter, where I started out as second vice president for a year, and then I became president in 2003, and I am still president of that chapter to this day.
Well, you know, the National Federation of the Blind gives so many opportunities for individuals to regain and also gain a sense of independence and a sense of inclusion. You want to talk about the latest initiatives with diversity, equity, and inclusion with this National Federation of the Blind?
Well, of course, like diversity is the big thing, basically, with everybody, all companies, all media. We are just making sure that people know that in this world, everybody has something to offer. Everybody is different. Everybody has, we are to be accepting of everyone, whether it's because of your religion or because of your sexual orientation, your culture, your color. Everybody is welcome in the National Federation of the Blind, just like we should be welcome anywhere in this world. So, we have been making sure that we've been having different programs in the National Federation of the Blind and seminars and workshops to have these discussions with different groups so that people can gain information and, learn specific things about, everyone. And of course, we have different divisions and groups, whether it be Asian members of the National Federation of the Blind, African Americans, the LGBTQIA segment of the National Federation of the Blind, Latinos. So we are just making sure that everybody that's a part of our organization feels comfortable and feels wanted and needed and loved in our organization.
And Denise,
now being a part of the Federation and being as independent as you are, now, and being blind, what would you consider to be one of your biggest challenges that you have experienced, let's say just in your transition of blindness?
For me or for others that I come in contact with?
Well, let's say in your life.
Well, I right now am pretty comfortable. Once I got over, my biggest thing was, learning to use that white cane, wanting to have that white cane and and proudly walk around my city and other locations using a cane, not feeling that I should be embarrassed or anything. Once I realized that the cane was what I really needed to be independent, that kind of like took a lot of weight off my shoulders, and really made me a better person, because I kept, if you didn't know me very well, you didn't know that I had any problem with my vision, depending on where you met me, what part of my life you met me in, you wouldn't have known. So once I could shake that, I'm a much better person now. And that's one of the things I find also, meeting new blind individuals. One of their main things is that they cannot decide, they know they can't see, they know they need help getting around, but they will not use that cane 24/7. And like I said, I've been there, been there and done that. I understand, and that's, something that's really hard for people to do.
It is so difficult to do. And I tell you, it was difficult for me to do. That's just the last thing I was going to do was carry a cane, until I really found out it keeps me more consistent with my life instead of stumbling downstairs and trying to find my way. But so many cane travel techniques with orientation and mobility, and so much training that's out there. But it is an adjustment and a good transformation into from a sighted world to a blind world. So we're going to take a short pause and come back and talk with you a little bit more about some of your other experiences and a lot more. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with our guest, Denise Brown.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
We want to welcome you again with our very exciting guest, Ms. Denise Brown out of the Philadelphia. And we were just talking about a lot of things. And one of the things that we really want to talk about again is the possibility of individuals with that are blind and the challenges that we face with employment. We have a bill in front of Congress that is talking about the transformation to competitive integrated employment. And Denise, share with us in your inception, what you were told you would probably have to do in your lifetime.
And I can remember one time the nurse telling me that I would probably be working in a workshop because that's what people or who couldn't see, that's what they did. And at that time, being a child, I really didn't understand what she was talking about. But as I got older, I understood that she, thought I'd be working in, some type of workshop where you're, making brooms or putting light bulbs together or, packing boxes or, something like that. And at that, as I've told you, I wanted to be a teacher basically all my life. I knew from a very young age that I was put on this earth to teach. it just felt natural. I always, as I said, I was the one who assisted students many times with their classwork if they couldn't get it. And, even now, when, as I teach, I teach iPhone skills to many blind individuals, I still get this great joy when they get it. I still get this great joy when I see that they have learned something. So, like I said, the teaching and really not just teaching skills to blind individuals, but I can tell you a number of sighted individuals who I've helped them with their smartphones. Because if you can explain to me what you're seeing, and I can kind of put it together in my head of what I think the next step should be, and you're able to listen to what I tell you and, do things in order, then, we've got something good. So like I said, I'm just a born teacher. Always knew about what I wanted to be. Never even had to think about another career. And, as we said earlier, I graduated with my bachelor's in May of 1980, and starting the school year off in September of 1980, I had a teaching job. So spent basically the summer looking for a position and luckily was able to find one.
That's very intuitive of you. And I tell you, you just a born again teacher, just born to teach. And it's self-evident as I learn more about you through the Federation. We deal with a 70% unemployment rate. And once you dive into that 70% and start looking just at people of color in that equation, that percentage rises quite drastically. And those are things that we're working on as we try to deal with transforming into a competitive and integrated employment with the Federation. So you graduated, and at the time you also became a member of a sorority. You want to talk about that? How is it for a person that's dealing with sight loss and pledging and becoming a member of a sorority?
So firstly, in school, I did not become a member of the sorority.
Oh, okay.
Because I wasn't telling anybody that I really couldn't see. And I knew I would have to, there was no way that I could, be in certain situations that took place in the dark or dim light, like parties or things like that. I didn't discuss it. So actually, it wasn't until 2007 when one of my sisters, who was also thinking about becoming a part of the sorority, asked me about going to one of their membership meetings. It's a meeting called a rush that you need to attend if a particular chapter is thinking about having membership intake. And so this was for the sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am a member of Quaker City Alumni Chapter here in Philadelphia. And yes, so I was a blind individual as I started the process. I did have to use certain technology so that I was, taking my notes with my Braille note taker so that I could, stay up to par with what I needed to stay up to par with. Material that I was given to read at that time, I was scanning it into my scanner and using open book so I could read the materials that I needed to read. But I was able to go through the process of becoming a full-fledged member with certain accommodations that had to be done, especially, like I said, with the reading of different materials and taking my notes. But everything was done in order. And as a member of the sorority, at one time, I was the recording secretary. So I had to use my laptop with my JAWS and put my headphones in. And I would take the notes for the chapter meetings and for the executive board meetings. And at that time, we were killing a lot of trees. So I also had to get the minutes run off. But now we don't kill as many trees. In fact, we just post the minutes online now. But yes, so I've been a member since 2007. In fact, my 14th anniversary will be tomorrow on April 15th. There were 53 of us on my line, 53 ROTP, 53 Reflections of the Prism. And it's something that I'm very glad that I did. And it's for a lifetime, so.
Wow, so that is so intriguing and encouraging for other citizens that are coping with vision and sight loss, that you can still achieve and become a member of such a prominent sorority. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with the conclusion of our show. So we'll be right back.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome to the conclusion of our show. And Denise, what would you say to another person coping with blindness as far as her journeys?
I would definitely say to get in touch with the National Federation of the Blind is something you will never regret.
Well, on that note, we want to say thank you very much, Denise, and we'll be looking forward for you to come back. So to our listening and viewing audience, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week here on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.